Eisenfaust an Lanzenschaft, die Zügel in der Linken, so springt des Reiches Ritterschaft und ihre Schwerter blinken. Heya, 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 und ihre Schwerter blinken. Heya, 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 und ihre Schwerter blinken.
Hello, welcome to Lex Orandi, Lex Credendi. I am Kenny, and today I had a rather interesting experience today, and it's a good example of what I'm talking about with, our need to start talking about these things with people, about the Latin Mass, why we want it. And unfortunately, the older generation is going to have the hardest time with it, just simply because that was just the generation that they grew up in. They all wanted to change everything. They all wanted everything to be loose and fun and whatever. But I was actually having a pretty decent conversation with somebody at the church today, and he was very receptive. He didn't really know too much about the traditional Latin Mass, but he very much said he had a desire to see the traditional stuff come back. And it was good. And then I was, pointing out to him the stuff about how all the churches ripped out the altars, the holy images, basically ripped out all the sacred, all the traditional. And then there's this older lady. She was clearly, probably my mom's age by the look of her. And so she was definitely of that hippie generation that, grew up in the 70s, late 80s, or early 80s, I mean. And, she was definitely one of those that just loves the Novus Ordo. And anyway, and so she jumped into the conversation. And at first it was okay. She was just, talking about how she remembers the high altar and, all the changes that came one day. I mean, all fine and good. You're telling your experience. But then she proceeds to make fun of her mother for being pious because her mom, I guess, was freaking out that the Mass was being said versus populum, facing the people, and that it wasn't in Latin, and that all of this beautiful architecture, which was intended to aid in your worship of God. And she was just rolling her eyes at her, I'm assuming at this point, deceased mother. And making fun of her because she didn't want to go to Mass anymore because of all the changes. And I just told her, well, I agree with your mom. It's like, she's 100% correct. And it proceeded to be a argument about whether the Novus Ordo was a good thing or not. And so she's a good example of the kind of people that we need to, talk to about this stuff. Now, unfortunately, she seems pretty dead set. I don't think any further conversation would do any good, at least not in the setting that we were in. I mean, maybe if you just told her, hey, I want to sit down with you to explain why I think the way I do, she might actually listen. Who knows? But, she's clearly very uncatechized, and she just does not understand why the Mass was done the way it was done for so long. And so she just sees the Mass as something that can be tweaked. It's just, this is just the way we worship. It was good for them then. It's it's not so great for people today. That kind of mindset. And so I don't think she's totally lost, but those kind of people we do need to talk to, but not focus on them, of course, because we need to get the younger generations, because most of the older generations, they just ain't changing. Like they are hook, line, and sinker, which is one of the reasons I say that if we do see a complete restoration of the tradition, we should not just outright abolish, like just come in one day, be like, okay, no more Novus Ordo, we're going right back to the traditional Latin Mass. We should not do that, because there's going to be some people that, well, let's just put it this way, it was done to us that way, and we should not do it to them. So, keep the Novus Ordo around for the older people, gradually bring back the Latin Mass. That's how we should do it. But these people are going to be the main problem, and so we need to bring in the younger generation and just basically show them, like, hey, this is what was wrong, this is what was going on in your parents' generation, your grandparents' generation for some of them, and this is why we need to return to the complete and absolute tradition. So I'm going to ask anybody who's going to be watching this video to pray for this lady and anybody else who's like her, that they will start to see the problems, that they start actually acting more Catholic, because you can tell with people like that they're Catholic, they kind of do maybe some devotions here and there, but they're not really practicing the faith in its entirety. And I mean, that's something we all have to work on. We all have to work on being more Catholic every single day. And so, but some more than others. And those of us who are further along do need to talk to those who are not and help them come along. Well, anyway, I have to run. I have things to do today. So until next time, Deus Vult.